Whatever obstacles I found made me fight all the harder, but it would have been impossible for me to fight at all, except that I was sustained by the personal and deep-rooted belief that my fight had a chance. It had a chance because it took place in a free society. Not once was I forced to face and fight an immovable object. Not once was the situation so cast-iron rigid that I had no chance at all. Free minds and human hearts were at work all around me, and so there was a probability of improvement. I look at my children now, and I know that I must still prepare them to meet obstacles and prejudices, but I can tell them, too, that they will never face some of these prejudices because other people have gone before them. And to myself I can say, because progress is inalterable, many of today's dogmas will have vanished by the time they grow into adults. I can say to my children, there is a chance for you. No guarantee, but a chance. And this chance has come to be because there is nothing static with free people. There is no Middle Ages logic so strong that it can stop the human tide from flowing forward. I do not believe that every person in every walk of life can succeed in spite of any handicap. That would be perfection. But I do believe, and with every fiber in me, that what I was able to attain came to be because we put behind us, no matter how slowly, the dogmas of the past, to discover the truth of today and perhaps find the greatness of tomorrow. I believe in the human race. I believe in the warm heart. I believe in man's integrity. I believe in the goodness of a free society. And I believe that the society can remain good only as long as we are willing to fight for it and to fight against whatever imperfections may exist.
You're listening to the Significantly Trivial Podcast. I'm your host, Rome. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 4. I hope you all had a fun Halloween. Got to dress up. If you have any kiddos, I hope they had a blast. I think the most popular costume I saw this year was anything K-pop Demon Hunters, especially Rumi. I did see a lot of Saja boys, however. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's an animated movie on Netflix called K-pop Demon Hunters. You should check it out. It's actually pretty good, and the songs are really catchy. And speaking of Netflix, I just watched the new Frankenstein movie, and I actually liked it. Last episode, I talked about the story of Frankenstein, and I hope you had a chance to listen to it. I found the new movie stayed pretty true to the actual story. There were some changes here and there, some embellishments, but overall it was pretty good. I think it really tried to focus on the deeper meanings and symbolisms from the book. It was directed by Guillermo del Toro, and he's usually big on those things. But we're not here to talk about that in this episode. If you're joining us for the first time, this podcast takes a seemingly trivial piece of information, something many would consider useless or insignificant, and peels back the layers to reveal a deeper meaning and importance. Why? Because no matter how trivial it may seem, everything you know is important. It doesn't matter what it is. At one point, you found it important enough, interesting enough, that you decided to remember it. And that's all that should matter. So if you love trivia like me, you've found the right place. So a couple of weeks ago, I found myself sitting at a bar in Los Angeles, Anaheim to be exact, watching the Los Angeles Dodgers attempt to do something that hasn't been done in a quarter century. And that's to repeat as World Series champion. Not since the 2000 New York Yankees has this been done. And as the Dodgers homer in the top of the ninth to tie it up, homer again in extra innings for the lead, and finally make the last out, as the bar was going crazy, I knew then what this episode was going to be about, which led me to this episode's trivia question. Since 2009, this jersey number has been worn by all Major League Baseball players on April 15th. And that number is 42.
Play ball!
On April 15, 1947, one man stepped onto the neatly manicured grass of Ebbets Field in Brooklyn, New York, and crossed a barrier that had stood for over half a century. That man was Jack Roosevelt Robinson. His jersey number, 42. After researching the Dodgers' historic win, I discovered a few things I hadn't known. I'm not a huge baseball fan. I'll watch when it comes to the pennant races and the World Series, and I know a little bit of its history, so a lot of this was new to me. Including this latest win, the Dodgers have won the World Series a total of 9 times. This win actually marks the 70th anniversary since their first win in 1955. Back then, they were the Brooklyn Dodgers, and the third baseman on that team was Jackie Robinson. Jack Roosevelt Robinson was born in Cairo, Georgia on January 31st, 1919, and was the youngest of 5 children to Mally and Jerry Robinson. Jackie never got to know his father or Georgia, as his mother moved the family west to Pasadena, California in 1920 after his father left. His mother hoped for a better life for her children on the less segregated West Coast. Growing up in relative poverty, Jackie made friends with mostly other minorities who still experienced racism, as they were excluded from many recreational activities. Jackie even briefly joined a gang, but was persuaded out of it by a friend. The one positive influence came from his older brothers, particularly Mac Robinson, who was a silver medalist in track and field at the 1936 Berlin Olympic Games. The man that won the gold? The great Jesse Owens. His brother's success motivated and inspired Jackie to pursue his own interest in sports. As a student at Muir Tech High School, he lettered in 4 sports: football, basketball, track, and baseball. Interestingly enough, baseball was his least favorite. His favorite was football, where he played quarterback, a rarity for black athletes at the time. He was already breaking barriers and stigmas at a young age. After high school, Jackie enrolled at Pasadena Junior College, where he continued his athletic career in the same 4 sports. There, his stellar athletic abilities really started to shine. He set a junior college record in the long jump of 25 feet and 6.5 inches, breaking a record set by his brother Mac. He was also selected as the region's most valuable player for baseball and was elected to the All-Southland Junior College team. It was at this point in his life, too, that he first started expressing his frustration with racism and authority figures. He was arrested after protesting the detention of a black friend by police, earning him a reputation for combativeness in the face of racial antagonism. After graduating from PJC, Jackie transferred to UCLA, where he continued to excel as a multi-sport athlete and became the first in the school's history to win varsity letters in 4 sports. His number 1 sport at this time was not baseball, however. It was football. In 1939, he was one of the first 4 black players in the Bruins football team. He also set a school rushing record that year. Baseball was a distant 4th place and was considered his worst sport. While a senior at UCLA, Jackie met Rachel Ism, a freshman who was familiar with his athletic career at Pasadena Junior College and would become his wife. In the spring of 1941, just before graduating, Jackie left UCLA, citing financial issues and a growing disillusionment about the value of a college degree for a black man during that era. After leaving UCLA, Jackie joined several semi-professional football teams, including, and I didn't know this, a stint with the racially integrated Honolulu Bears in 1941. I'm originally from Hawaii and still consider it my home, so this was actually pretty cool to learn. But considering Hawaii's diverse history, it's no surprise how racially integrated sports and society was there at this time. After his time in Hawaii, he moved back to California in 1941 to continue his semi-pro football career, playing for the Los Angeles Bulldogs of the Pacific Coast League. This was short-lived, however, as the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor soon after, and would change the course of his life. Robinson was drafted into the U.S. Army in 1942 and was assigned to a segregated cavalry unit in Kansas. His military service during World War II proved to be a critical period where his innate inner steel and principled character led to defining acts of activism. His first act proved to be successful as he, along with others, including boxing champion Joe Louis, who was also assigned to Fort Riley and who Jackie had befriended, protested their denial into officer candidate school. Through their efforts, black soldiers were eventually accepted into OCS. Jackie was commissioned as a second lieutenant in 1943. I found it really neat how the lives of two very important figures in American history overlapped in such an important period of time, them becoming friends and fighting for the same cause. Jackie was then reassigned to Fort Hood in Texas, where he joined the 761st Black Panthers Tank Battalion that would become the first black tank unit to see combat in World War II, serving with distinction under George S. Patton. Robinson, however, never deployed overseas. On July 6, 1944, he was involved in a notable event that paralleled a similar event nearly a decade later. While boarding a military bus, the driver ordered him to move to the back of the bus, despite it being an unsegregated bus. Jackie refused and was eventually placed into custody by military police. When he later confronted the investigating duty officer about racist questioning, the officer recommended a court-martial. He was charged with multiple offenses, including insubordination. Robinson was acquitted by an all-white panel in August 1944. He was eventually honorably discharged in November 1944 before returning home. This act of civil disobedience occurred nearly a decade before Rosa Parks's brave stand in Montgomery, Alabama, making Jackie one of the earliest pioneers of the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr. once said of Robinson, "He was a freedom rider before the freedom rides, and a sit-inner before the sit-ins." After his discharge, Robinson worked as the athletic director at Samuel Houston College in Austin, Texas, where he coached the basketball team during the 1945 to 1947 seasons. His focus would soon shift to baseball, however, when the Negro League offered him a contract to play professionally for the Kansas City Monarchs. It's important to note that Major League Baseball at this time operated under an unwritten but ironclad rule known as the Gentleman's Agreement. This racist policy, established among team owners in the 1880s, effectively banned black athletes from the league. It didn't matter how talented the player was, it was the color of their skin that determined their entry into the league. This agreement was strictly enforced by the league's commissioner, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, a known and strict segregationist who would have blocked any attempt at integration. This policy relegated generations of gifted black players to the Negro Leagues, denying them the opportunity to compete on the sport's biggest stage. Robinson's exceptional play while with the Monarchs soon caught the eye of one Branch Rickey, president and general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Wesley Branch Rickey was a complex, highly influential, and often contradictory figure in baseball history. A man of deep moral convictions, he also possessed a shrewd business acumen. This combination helped lead to his involvement in two of the sport's greatest innovations, the modern farm system and the integration of Major League Baseball. He was a conservative and religious man and believed the current state of segregation in the league ran contrary to his Christian beliefs. Articulate and philosophical, his commitment to social justice was rooted in an event from his college coaching days around 1904, where he witnessed the ill treatment of a black player on his team who was denied accommodation due to his race. This incident, which mirrored an event in Jackie's life, if you recall, was a lifelong inspiration for his push to sign him decades later. Before we get into their relationship, I want to take some time to highlight how Rickey himself helped transform the sport with innovations that exist to this day. While with the St. Louis Cardinals in the 1920s, Rickey was dismayed at the high cost of acquiring and developing players for the team. At this time, it involved buying players from the numerous minor league teams. These teams ran independently from the major league teams and controlled the cost of their players. To secure talent cheaper, Ricky, whose nickname was given to him by the press was El Cheapo, began purchasing and controlling minor league teams to develop his own players, creating the minor league farm system. This revolutionized player acquisition and allowed the Cardinals to develop a dynasty, winning 9 league championships during this time. Ricky also displayed a forward-thinking, almost scientific approach to the game. You guys remember the movie Moneyball, starring Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill? It's based on a true story about these two guys who built a winning baseball team on a limited budget using statistical analytics. It's a great movie. You should watch it when you have a chance. Well, Branch Rickey was the OG. He was the original moneyballer. He hired the first full-time statistical analyst for a professional baseball club and championed the use of statistics like on-base percentage to evaluate player value, foreshadowing the later sabermetrics movement used in the movie. Branch Rickey viewed baseball as a project or experiment that could progress and continually be improved upon, and he sought to find any competitive advantage he could find. The culmination of this work and his character was a plan he called the Noble Experiment. And for this plan to succeed, Rickey understood that he needed to look beyond any and every baseball stat. As president and general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Rickey spearheaded the effort to integrate Major League Baseball. He viewed the vast, untapped talent pool of the Negro League as both a moral necessity and a competitive advantage. It was a daunting challenge to say the least. But the death of Baseball Commissioner Landis in 1944, who was a major obstacle, provided Rickey the opening he needed to put his plan into motion. There was a lot of secrecy involved with his plan. He knew that if word got out, that would be it. The plan would likely fail. He went so far as to announce the creation of a new fake Negro League team to scout for talent. Rickey instructed his scouts to look beyond the stats and prioritize character, age, temperament, and fortitude. He was not simply looking for the best athlete. He understood the test ahead was primarily one of character, not batting average. He needed a pioneer who could withstand a storm of hatred. Rickey's search led him to the Kansas City Monarchs and a shortstop named Jackie Robinson. He possessed a unique combination of these traits that made him the ideal candidate for this monumental task. On August 28, 1945, the two met in a historic 3-hour meeting. Rickey knew the enormous amount of hate and abuse Robinson would have to endure, and in this meeting he made it clear he needed someone with the psychological armor and emotional strength to withstand the pressure without crumbling or retaliating. He also made an almost impossible demand. For 3 years, Robinson could not react. Jackie's response was, "Are you looking for a Negro who is afraid to fight back?" To which Rickey replied, "I'm looking for a player with guts enough not to fight back." That's some good stuff right there. Rickey knew that any retaliation, no matter how justified, would be used by segregationists to paint Robinson as the aggressor and derail their entire effort to integrate the sport. With that, they shook hands and sealed their pact. So on April 15, 1947, in front of a crowd of about 26,000 people at Ebbets Field in Brooklyn, over half of whom were black, Jackie Robinson took his position at first base for the Dodgers. The moment was historic, to say the least, but it unleashed a torrent of abuse that tested his pact with Rickey every single day. Robinson endured a constant barrage of verbal abuse and physical threats on and off the field, and from players and fans alike. Racist slurs and epithets, threats of physical harm, and even death were an everyday thing for him. The Philadelphia Phillies were especially brutal, yelling for him to go back to the cotton fields. He was often targeted with fastballs to his head, and players would constantly spike him, where they would step on his feet with their spikes. The threats were directed to his family as well. It really did speak volumes about his character and his commitment to Branch Rickey and this whole noble experiment by not retaliating. It also proved to Rickey that Robinson was indeed the right choice. All that abuse that Robinson endured, all that anger and frustration because of it, he channeled into determination and excellence on the field. He literally let his bat, glove, and legs do the talking. And they had a lot to say.
In the last half of the second inning, Robinson gets the first hit off fourth. It's a homer into the left field stand.
That year, 1947, Jackie won the first ever Major League Baseball Rookie of the Year award, an award that now officially bears his name, the Jackie Robinson Award. In 1949, he won National League MVP, establishing himself as one of the game's elite players. And in 1955, as a veteran and outspoken leader for the Dodgers, helped lead that team to their first World Series title. While Jackie Robinson had to endure his burden mostly alone, he did find several allies on his team and elsewhere in the league. Players like Pee Wee Reese and Hank Greenberg supported and stood in solidarity with Robinson, letting players and fans alike know that he was one of us. Leo DeRocher, the manager of the Dodgers in 1947, famously once said of Robinson, "I do not care if the guy's yellow or black or if he has stripes like a fucking zebra. I'm the manager of this team, and I say he plays." Soon after Robinson's debut, and once other teams saw the enormous potential of the incredible athletes in the Negro League, others began to join the majors. Larry Doby, the first black player in the American League, joined the Cleveland Indians just months after Robinson in 1947. Robinson's own team, the Dodgers, added more black players, including Roy Campanella and Don Newcomb, to join Robinson. All three would be on the 1955 team that won it all. Speaking of that team, there were 7 Hall of Famers on that team. Roy Campanella, Gil Hodges, Sandy Koufax, Tommy Lasorda, Pee Wee Reese, Duke Snider, and of course Jackie Robinson. There are a few others who really should have been inducted already, but never made it in for one reason or another. The one that really stands out is Don Newcomb, a black pitcher who, in 1956, made baseball history by winning both the Cy Young and MVP awards in the same year. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully that changes soon. That team was good. In fact, nearly all of the Dodgers teams of the 50s were good. They became known as the Boys of Summer, a term now synonymous with the sport of baseball itself. In the 50s, those Dodgers won 5 National League pennants and 2 World Series titles. The pinnacle of those teams, however, was the 1955 team that won the organization's first title.
Elston Howard sends a grounder to Pee Wee Reese, and these Dodgers at last are world champions. Delirious with joy, teammates and fans mobbed the Brooklyn pitcher in wild acclaim. In the Dodger clubhouse is the pandemonium only a great victory can generate. And setting the zany pace are Gil Hodges, Duke Snider, and Don Newcomb. This is Brooklyn's greatest baseball day.
The Dodgers would repeat as National League champions the following year. But in a rematch of the previous Subway Series with their crosstown rivals, the New York Yankees, the Dodgers would succumb in 7 games to a much better team, especially when it came to pitching, when Yankees pitchers threw 5 consecutive complete games, including Don Larson's perfect Game 5. That would also be the last Major League Baseball game Jackie would play. After a disappointing end to that season, Jackie Robinson would soon leave the team and sport he loved so much. At 38 years old, time had caught up to him. In secret, he quietly started planning his departure and retirement from the game, entering into a deal with the coffee shop and restaurant chain Chock Full of Nuts to serve as vice president. The Dodgers, unaware of Robinson's plans, traded him to the New York Giants. Jackie, of course, refused, thus eventually revealing his plans for retirement. Soon after, in 1958, both the Dodgers and Giants moved from New York to California, with the Dodgers relocating to Los Angeles and the Giants becoming the San Francisco Giants. Jackie never got a chance to play for the team in his boyhood home. After retiring from baseball, Jackie Robinson devoted his life to activism and continued being a voice for civil rights. You have to remember that, as the nation entered the 60s and the heart of the civil rights movement, Robinson had been breaking stereotypes and barriers for nearly a decade. Robinson first stepped foot onto a baseball field and into American history 7 years before the historic Brown versus Board of Education ruling, 9 years before the Montgomery bus boycott, and 16 years before the March on Washington, of which he was a key participant. He was a tireless advocate for civil rights on and off the field, becoming the first black American to be vice president of a major American corporation, helped co-found the first black-owned and operated commercial bank, and even started his own construction company that helped build housing for low-income families. He was indubitably recognized by his peers, serving on the board of the NAACP from 1957 to 1967. At the beginning of the episode, I played a clip of Jackie Robinson. It was an essay he wrote in 1951 for the popular radio series This I Believe, hosted by the legendary Edward R. Murrow. In it, Robinson talks about his journey of self-discovery, the importance of faith, and his personal philosophy regarding progress, perseverance, and the struggle to build a free and equal society. I think the most profound part of the essay is when he talks about his baseball debut and how quickly he comes to the realization that all eyes were on him. This was his moment. He was chosen, not in a vain type of way, but in a way that solidified and galvanized his resolve to ensure that this noble experiment was successful. He goes on to talk about how we as humans are imperfect by nature, but as humans, our ultimate goal is to address these imperfections, and when given room to breathe and time to think, they ultimately will get fixed because the will to improve and be better is also part of our nature. A sentiment that is similar in message to MLK's famous speech of how the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Eventually we get it right on the backs of those that came before and by continuously fighting for what's right. His belief in a free society is also what strengthened his fortitude, and I think sports helped develop that thinking. He had people he knew he could trust and that would have his back. As he says in his essay, free minds and human hearts were at work all around me. He concludes his essay with a powerful statement of faith. I believe in the human race. I believe in the warm heart. I believe in man's integrity. I believe in the goodness
of a free society. And I believe that the society can remain good only as long as we are willing to fight for it and to fight against whatever imperfections may exist.
In 1962, Major League Baseball honored Jackie Robinson by inducting him into the Baseball Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility on the first ballot. This will be just the first of many honors bestowed upon him. In 1987, the annual Rookie of the Year award, of which he was the inaugural recipient in 1947, was renamed the Jackie Robinson Rookie of the Year Award. On April 15, 1997, the 50th anniversary of his debut, Major League Baseball officially retired his jersey number 42 across all 30 Major League teams. This unique honor made Robinson the first and only player in any major North American sport to have his number universally retired by every team. There can be no other 42. A really powerful statement. There were players who wore the number in his honor before its retirement. The last player to wear 42, the legendary Yankees closer Mariano Rivera, who wore it until his retirement in 2013. In 2004, to honor his legacy, the league established April 15th as Jackie Robinson Day, marking the day he first stepped foot onto Ebbets Field. Then, in 2007, baseball great Ken Griffey Jr. and future Hall of Famer himself made a poignant request to wear the number 42 on Jackie Robinson Day. His request was granted and sparked an idea in then-Commissioner Bud Selig to make this a league-wide tradition, that every player, manager, coach, and umpire wear the number 42 on April 15th, a tradition that continues today. And in 2008, the Baseball Hall of Fame unveiled a recast plaque that explicitly states Robinson's role and legacy in breaking baseball's color barrier, highlighting its historical importance along with his player stats. Outside of baseball, his legacy and commitment to social justice, leadership, and education is carried on through the Jackie Robinson Foundation. Established in 1973 by his wife Rachel Robinson, it is best known for administering one of the nation's premier scholarship and leadership development programs for students of color with strong capabilities but limited financial resources. It embodies Robinson's famous quote, life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. And in 2022, the Jackie Robinson Museum opened its doors in New York City, serving as a permanent tribute to and chronicling the life of this extraordinary individual through artifacts, state-of-the-art media, and exhibits. It also serves as an educational center and venue for dialogue on issues of social justice, equality, and the many other challenges society faces today. Jackie Robinson's legacy is that of an incredible athlete, an innovator and pioneer who believed in the power to change the world. And as I sat in that bar in Los Angeles and watched as the world watched the team, led and managed by a man of African and Japanese ancestry, start a Japanese man on the mound, and with their backs against the wall in the top of the ninth inning, watched a Venezuelan man hit a home run to tie the game, then watched a white man from Kentucky homer to take the lead, the world collectively held its breath. And as another Japanese man is called in to close it out, when a black man from Tennessee turned the 6-4-3 double play for the final out to give the Dodgers back-to-back World Series titles on the 70th anniversary of their first win, I realized it really couldn't have been scripted any better.
The Dodgers stand tall and win back-to-back titles.
And so, in this season of thanks, I, along with the many fans of the sport, offer a sincere and heartfelt thank you, Mr. Jackie Robinson. Thank you for all that you've done and all that your legacy continues to do for the nation, the world, and the great American pastime. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. Of all the episodes, I think I enjoyed reading and researching this one the most. Several times I found myself overcome with emotions ranging from anger, disgust, to joy and pride, and I just feel like a better person now because of it. Join me for the next episode where I talk about a topic that conjures images of hillbillies and the American backwoods. Till then, from my family and friends to yours, have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Talk to you soon.